Hello and welcome to Movie Reel. I am Samantha Tomlinson.
And I am Kevin Tracy. Welcome back, everybody.
And what movie are we doing today, Kevin?
I'm actually really excited about this movie. We kind of picked this one kind of like a spur of the moment thing, but I'm actually genuinely excited about this movie. It's the 2018, I believe,
Or
movie
17, I think.
Annihilation. Oh, 17. Okay.
Wait, actually, you know what? I'm going to check.
No, it's like I'm pretty sure it's 2018. Oh, anyway, it's the movie Annihilation starring Natalie Portman and Oscar Isaacs.
You're right,
Yeah,
2018. I just
yeah, it's like
remembered
what? I'm like pretty sure it was right.
I remember when this movie came out, it came out around the time of Black Panther. And I remember
Yeah, that's right.
for the old show, Black Panther was non-negotiable. Like we were gonna do Black Panther, but I remember I really wanted to do this, and it just never, it just didn't happen.
Planned to try and see this. For the most part, yeah, Black Panther took priority because like that, like everyone had to see that. Otherwise, you'd be kind of left in the dust. Um, and that was pre Infinity War and Endgame, so we weren't sure like, oh, like what's this gonna lead into? So we had to figure out how that was gonna play into that whole uh Infinity War Endgame saga. But yeah, this game kind of slipped under the radar, not only for us, but a lot of people. Not that many people went and saw this movie, unfortunately, which is a shame because this is a pretty solid movie. I enjoy this movie very immensely.
It was funny. So when it came, I had told one of my friends that for this week we were doing Natalie Portman's Annihilation, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we didn't like that movie." Like,
Yeah,
okay.
when I first watched this, I watched this with my dad, like randomly on TV. Like we like found it like on demand or something, and we're both like pretty big in like sci-fi and like horror and like like stuff like that. Um, so this movie seemed like right up our alley. I'm watching this movie. I'm fully invested in it. I could not take my eyes off of it. Like the visuals, the characters, the storytelling. I was hooked immediately. And my dad, on the other hand, he was like struggling, not really struggling. He was just not really into it as much. He's more of like a concrete is like, all right, here's the alien. This is its motivation. This is what our protagonists are trying to do to stop it. That's not really clear in this movie. It's more of like a cosmic horror type mystery, which I felt like kind of hurt the movie because it was marketed more of like a sci-fi adventure fantasy type movie.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
this movie's definitely different. So yeah, like I said, it came out in 2018. It is rated R. And
For good reason.
wow, yeah, I mean, yikes. And so critics gave it an 88%, audiences gave it a 66%. And basically, if you're unaware of this movie, the basic gist of it is a biologist, Natalie Portman, signs up for a dangerous secret expedition into a mysterious zone where the laws of nature don't apply. So, yeah, I will say I'm not into horror and sci-fi for me. It just kind of depends on the story. I don't really
Yeah.
For me I care more about the plot and the concept as opposed to the genre.
And yeah, yeah, and that makes it kind of difficult for horror because a lot of them have a pretty shoestring story to begin with. Like a lot of like modern day horror and like sci-fi and like combinations of like the two genres have like a very simplistic storyline that can literally be summed up in one sentence of like he's a bad guy who likes killing or good guys are trying to stop him. That's it. That's the story of about 80% of like most modern sci-fi horror movies, like especially like stuff that are like on the sci-fi channel. It's like mad scientists make something, it goes bad, they try to stop it.
This movie is because I feel like also a lot of sci-fi tend to more it's like science based, but it's more like action adventure than actual
Yeah.
science based. This is definitely science based.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's a very different. So I will say the trailer. I rewatched the trailer prior to this, and the trailer
Yeah.
makes it seem like it's a lot more straightforward than it is. Which I so it's a little misleading. I mean, it is what happens, but it's so. Okay, we'll just start from the beginning. I will say, I did
Yeah,
stop a lot and taking
yeah,
notes.
Yeah,
There were
this movie, it's something. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's yeah,
Lot
like
to
I mean, it's
process.
different. I had to keep stopping and taking a bunch of notes. Like it was, um, just I
lot
mean,
to process.
yeah. So when we first start, when the movie starts, so Natalie Portman, she's in like a like kind of a white like not like
She's in
scrub,
like a quarantine facility.
yeah. And guess who she's getting interviewed by? Wong from Doctor Strange.
Wong.
I was like, Wong.
Portrayed by the actor Benedict Wong, whose character is Lomax in this, Dr. Lomax, who is conducting an interview with Natalie Portman's character, Lena, and he's from the questions that he is asking her, we gather that she was in the Shimmer, which is this weird biohazard area where like the laws of nature like really don't have any solid tangible rules. She's been there in there for 4 months and is the only survivor of her team that went in prior or in the events of this movie prior to like this scene, because this scene takes place like the entire movie is like told like in flashback or like in story form, and this is like the present. This is like the future present of in the beginning of the movie, which I thought was kind of cool.
Does it
And,
specify in the very beginning that she's the only survivor?
I don't think they specify that in the very beginning, but it is heavily implied that she is the only survivor.
Because she's the only
when
one that is in the interview, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah, she's the only one in the interview, and literally there's like 20 people outside of her containment cell just watching this interrogation between Benedict Wong and Natalie Portman's characters. Uh, yeah, it's trippy and it's like kind of like, oh, like what happened? It's like what happened to get from point A to point B, you know?
Nothing about this movie is like, and not even just the concept, just the way it was directed. Not, it's not like anything I've ever. Nothing really came to mind that I could compare it to. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, she's being interrogated. It then kind of, I mean, I guess with a flashback, it's just
Flash
a quick, a
back
little
to
bit
like yeah,
explanation of what happened. So something landed on Earth, attached itself to a lighthouse. Did it specify what state this was in? It just said it was
um,
expanding.
Yeah, so somewhere off the coast in like a marshlands area. I assumed that it was somewhere like near the East Coast
I
somewhere.
was
I was thinking
guessing
like
Maine, yeah, because it's a
yeah,
lighthouse.
yeah, it's like somewhere in Maine. Just like there's a lot of like swampy marshland, but it's like also later on in the movie they encounter like an alligator. It's like, wait, they're not in Maine. Alligators they're not that far up north. Like what? That's too cold of a climate for them because they're cold blooded. It's like, are they in Florida? It's like, where are they?
Well, we know, so she teaches at John Hopkins University, which I'm not entirely. I know that I think that's yeah, New England or Midwest. I'm not 100%
yeah.
sure. I know the name. I know the school.
I mean, for the most part, like the general geographic
Maryland,
location doesn't
Maryland.
really have anything. Okay,
It's
it's
a
like yeah,
yeah.
the general geographic location
Of this movie doesn't have like a major impact on the movie. It's just more of like, where is this? It's more of like a general curiosity at this point of like, where are they? This is confusing. How did no one notice about this?
So yeah,
because
she's yeah. So we see she's a biology professor, um, and so she's like talking about the cell and how it divides and it's very it's science fiction and it's very based in science based on like very
yeah,
something very basic in science though too, which is so I think most people can understand.
yeah.
But also worth noting, this is a book. This is a trilogy apparently.
Oh, I did not know that.
So the first book I guess is Annihilation, but it's the trilogy is called Southern Reach, and because
Okay,
that's where they first that's where the Shimmer is and that's where they go into is the Southern Reach. um and yeah, so it's I guess it's a trilogy. I don't know if they're making more.
I don't think so. I would love for them to do that, but yeah.
yeah,
Though it's pretty stand on its own though, I gotta say.
yeah. Yeah, but
the main reason why I don't think they're going to make any more is this movie had a budget of $40 million, which is a fair amount to make a movie. Guess how much it made worldwide?
I'm assuming maybe 60 million.
43 million.
Oh, okay,
so,
so it made $3 million.
Yeah, but according to Hollywood, if it doesn't double its budget, it is technically a financial failure. So this technically did make money back, but not nearly as much as they were hoping for. So that does make it a little bit difficult for a movie like this to potentially make a sequel when apparently not that many people seemed interested in seeing it, and which is a shame because this is a good movie. I genuinely enjoyed it. The themes are just a bit.
It wasn't like independent. It's not an independent. I don't think it's a part of an independent film. Like it was in theaters. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it wasn't like in a small theater that no one saw. Like so, yeah. I can mean okay if it didn't make that much, then fair enough. But yeah. So she's a biology professor, and we see she's in class. Class ends. Her lecture ends, and the student walks up to her, and they start chatting. And so I don't. The student who never shows up again. I just thought the little side conversation with the student was kind of unnecessary, but that was just me. But
That I don't even remember that.
if anyone saw Crazy Rich Asians, she is in that. I'm trying
Never
to
saw that
remember
movie.
her name, but I'm trying to look. The second I saw her, I'm like, oh wait, I know she looks really familiar, and her name is Sonia Mizuni. She played Armita. She's the one. It's her wedding that they're going to in the movie. But anyway, it was like, oh, her. But anyway, there was so then right after that, a colleague of Natalie Portman says, "Hey, my wife and I are having a barbecue. If you want to stop by," and she's like, "No," and
she yeah, she seems like really cold and distant towards him, and later on we figure out that this character's name is Daniel, and well, yeah, we also figure out why she seems a bit distant, and later on in this like conversation, like further on, like a next scene, we learn that her husband, played by Oscar Isaac and Poe Dameron in the recent Star Wars movies, if you don't know who that um, is a special force soldier in the Marines, where Natalie Portman and him met and were eventually married. Is has gone missing after going on this special mission like a year ago, and he's still missing and presumed dead at this point, and she's still kind of in mourning because she was never really it was never really confirmed whether or not he was dead or not. He was just MIA in some unknown region that they couldn't tell her for some unspecified security reason.
Okay, because that makes more sense. Because I felt like so he actually before I jump ahead, this movie jumps back and forth a lot.
Oh yeah, constantly.
It's like and I realized it finally clicked later. It's like it's like broken up into chapters, but the way which I won't get to it now, but it's broken up like chapters, and so it jumps back and forth. So yeah, we see like we know she's kind of mourning. She doesn't, and she starts to paint her bedroom, and then who comes home? Oscar Isaac. His name's Kane, and she like runs and hugs him, and I realized it. This is when I noticed a lot of the behavior in this movie, especially in the first third of the movie, really bothered me. I didn't buy it, and now that we know, because I thought she just thought he was dead, and her behavior when she saw him, it didn't strike me as if she wasn't treating it as, oh my god, you're alive. No, it was like he was missing and came home. And I'm like, okay, that makes more sense now. Because at the time I'm like, I didn't buy that. It didn't come off like he had been killed. It came off like, yeah, he was missing and it hadn't been very long.
Yeah, it's at this point, it's like he like went on this mission like a year ago, and like a flashback, they have like a very like touching like, oh, like I miss you, like a goodbye, like just look up the stars and just know that like somewhere in the world I'll be looking up the same stars or something like that.
She's like, what the hell? What kind of a what do you do? Is that what you think I do when you're gone? And you're like, aha, it's funny. She's not like she's not a girly like wife, like the damsel in distress wife.
Oh no, she is a total badass in this movie. She like her and Oscar Isaac's like met in the military. She's like a former U.S. soldier who specialized in biology and became a college professor. And later on in the movie, she knows how to use a gun very competently, more so than the majority of the people in her team. One of which is the actress who played Valkyrie in Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, the group of girls is pretty cool. Good. It's Tessa Thompson, who is Valkyrie, Gina Rodriguez, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and I'm not familiar with the other actress, Cass. Wasn't really familiar with her.
Yeah, Tuva. Yeah, that's played by Tuva Navanti. I think that's how we say her name. I apologize in advance if I butchered your last name. If you were listening, because we all know you are. This is a popular podcast. But yeah, no, when Kane first shows up, it is presumed that he was MIA and presumed dead. Not, it was never confirmed if he was dead or not. Natalie Portman is just kind of led to assume that he's been dead since he's been missing for over a year in some unknown security restricted area that the U.S. government cannot and will not share or disclose that information. Later on, we learned that he was in the Shimmer that entire time and is the only known person to go in and come out alive. Or at all, actually. No one's come out. So that was like a really big deal.
Sorry, before all that, they go downstairs. He's at the table, and she's like asking all these questions that he can't answer, and he's just acting very. I was thinking the word my mom used to say this to me all the time, and she said it so often that I thought it was a regular word. Turns out it's an Italian word, and she's the only one that's ever said it to me. But I thought I heard it, but I heard it so much that I thought everyone said it. It's stenati. It's like you're kind of spacey, not really all there. He's just he's there, and he's answering, but he's like, I don't know. I don't remember. Like, he's just very, and I thought it was weird. Like, she's getting frustrated that he's not telling her anything. But I wrote down, she didn't seem bothered at all by his behavior. And I get, okay, we don't know what he's been through. We don't know anything. And she's trying to get a sense of it, but he's not acting normal. And even it's like, it's one thing if he's not even acting like he's just he didn't even, he just was not acting normal at all. She didn't seem at all concerned about that, or maybe she was, and that's why she was asking all these questions.
Well, I think she was. Sorry to interrupt, but I think she was more or less trying to like give him some space because I assumed that she thought he was under like some kind of like PTSD or some kind of like mental break, and that's why he was kind of talking in a very robotic tone and kind of just giving short, like one word answers and really having no memory because I guess she assumed that it was like so traumatic that he has since like blocked it out, and that is why he's kind of seems a bit off and kind of broken right now. So I guess she's just trying to give him some space. It's like, no, it's like, it's okay. We have the rest of our lives together. Or do they? Dun, dun, dun.
If he was missing in action, would he just show up? If he,
no,
you know what I mean?
He
like,
wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm like, wouldn't there be in like a chain of command, like medics or his superior saying, you know, they don't have last name. Do they have last names? Just Mrs. Whatever, your husband's home, and like.
I don't remember her last name. I just know that her name is Lena in Kane. Also, I really like his name, and I think that does have significance towards the end of the movie. But that I'll get into that once we get a bit closer to the end of the movie on why I think his choice of name is significant.
He drinks some water. He's basically he's saying like, I came home and I recognized you, and something, and then he takes a sip of water and there's blood in it. He says, I don't feel well. They're in an ambulance, and then the ambulance somebody stops the ambulance, takes them all out, and she's sedated.
But by a bunch of guys in like blacked out like SUVs. It's like, oh, this is some like government like cover up shit right now. It's like something's going down.
And then it just cuts like on screen. It just says Area X.
Yeah, which cool name, just a cool name.
The next time though we get one of those, it says the Shimmer, and so I thought, based on when it was happening, I thought it was just doing it per location. It wasn't till the last one did I realize, oh no, it's like chapters. Like it's breaking up into. It was because it was Area X, then the Shimmer, and then I'm like, yeah, like I see, like I get Area X. I don't know what what I mean, but she wakes up kind of in. So she wakes up undisclosed location. She's in like an orange like prison jumpsuit. I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
I thought that I didn't really understand why her clothes, maybe quarantine way. I don't know.
I think they were just like being like overly cautious. Like if she like because she came in contact with like Oscar Isaac, and later on we find out that he is the only one to come out of the Shimmer, not even just alive, just come out of it, and more or less intact. And they're not sure if he would have any like residual radiation. And since she was in close proximity, it would make sense that they would like torch her clothes and give her some like a jumpsuit. Basically, it just happened to look prison orange.
Yeah, okay. I felt like there were a lot of these, especially in the beginning. There was a lot of these little things like mannerisms or just small decisions where I'm like, what was the point? I just felt like that happened a lot, and so like yeah, like her being not really questioning at all his behavior or. And again, like I don't know anybody in the military, so I don't know what that's like for them to come home. So I can't base it off anything. It was just from what I've seen in other movies and TV. Like that's all I have to go off, and it just seemed something. There were certain things that seemed different than what I would have expected.
Well,
I could be wrong, but I think like the procedure is if the person is MIA and if they are in the right state of mind, they have the right to withhold to like their chain of command telling like their next of kin they're if they are alive, if they've already like made arrangements, and it's just something I could be completely wrong, and just them just show up in person is not out of the question. It's usually done through a chain of command, and they're going to give like some kind of note at them like at the airport or
that's just what I thought was weird. Like, but then again, we find out this wasn't just a regular like military. So yeah, he was like I said. So we meet Dr. Ventress, who's Jennifer Jason Leigh. She's a psychologist or psychiatrist. I don't remember which one it was, but anyway, yeah. But she basically she's kind of asking Lena some questions, like, did he contact you? And she's very like
cold,
like throughout most of the film. And she then he's sick and he's having like internal, like pretty much his organs shut down, internal bleeding. So we don't, and they show her the Shimmer, and it's this complete anomaly. No one's come out.
I kind of want to separate right there. This is like really like the first like real time we get to see the Shimmer, and this is such a cool visual just from like a cinematic standpoint. When we see it like that look when you have like a drop of like oil like mixed with water. It's like very translucent and like kind of like has like a rainbow sheen to it and very glossy looking, and just constantly moving and like God, like kind of coagulating and just kind of meshing with like the water and the oil. It's like that look.
Yeah, the visuals are definitely really cool in this movie. It's kind of like this. It's like it's like a shimmering wall, like a clear shimmering wall, but you can't see what's behind it quite. But you just see all these colors, and so Natalie Portman meets a bunch of these other girls. So Gina Rodriguez character. So their names. So it's Gina Rodriguez, Tessa Thompson. So their names are
Dr. Ventress, Anna, Cass,
Josie Raddick is Tessa Thompson. Gina Rodriguez is Anya. Tuva. No, I don't want to even attempt her last name. Cass Shepard. Cass Shepard is her character name, and they basically they're going in. It's a all and Lena makes note like all female scientists, which this movie is very for me. To me, it wasn't actually ironically, it was Black Panther that showed this to me. The best female representation is when we don't forget the fact that we're women and focus on the fact that we're people. And just, you know what I mean? Like, I'm so done with, like, the whole, like...
preachy feminist kind of spiel.
Not even the spiel, but just, like, if just the pointing out that someone's a woman and like, or like it's just let's just show women doing things as opposed to saying they can do things. And so I will say,
I think that I think that she went out of her way to say it's like, oh, like it's like the first all woman team going into the Shimmer is like, I think they did that because like all the other teams were like all men and they all perished. So they weren't sure if like like an all female team would like psychologically or physically react differently.
Yeah, no, and
being into the Shimmer
because they had no previous data beforehand. So I guess that makes sense why they specify it's like, oh, it's like it's the first all female team. So I didn't feel like it was coming across like preachy or like overly pro feminist. I felt like that was just like, okay, that's just a logical thing to tell us. Like, yeah, this is the first all female team. Let's see what happens. Like,
and I didn't think it was I didn't think it was preachy either, because the rest of the movie is just like, it's, you know what I mean, like the gender is irrelevant, and that's how.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's what I love. That's how it needs to be. And so, but no, it was just when they said the word like female, and I was like, ah, like I just don't like. I think I just get sick of like specifying. That's what it is.
Yeah, when they point out something obvious like that, it's kind of annoying and weird.
It's not preachy at all. Like, it's really like, it's, and there's no like, they're just a bunch of badass women, and that's just how it is. And that's what I like. That's for me. Like, that's why I love Black Panther. There was no question on the women doing all these cool things. It was just, yeah, they do like it. That's how it needs to be in film, and it's starting to do that more. But anyway, so yeah, they're all going in, and then Lena tells Ventress that she wants to go in, and then Dr. Ventress kind of specifies. So Lena's saying to her, why are you going in? Like, you don't, she doesn't need to go in. But I guess the bottom line,
because like Dr. Ventress is like, she's like one of like the head researchers at like Area X from what I understand. She was like kind of like one of like the head honchos there. It's just like, wait, why are you going into a place where there's literally no guarantee that you'll return? Like, for the most part, this may or may not be a one-way trip.
And just, I guess she needs to know why this is happening. That's kind of the gist of it. And so Lena, though, they decide, Lena didn't tell them that. So they said, like, some guy came out, only one guy came out, but he's really sick and dying, and she didn't say that that's her husband.
Yeah, the only one on the team who knows that Lena's husband, Kane, is like the one who made it out, is, Ventress is the only one who knows that, and she's like, okay, like, that's your thing, I really don't care. If you want to tell them, go ahead. If you don't want to tell them, go ahead, but it might bite you in the ass later on. And for the most part, it kind of does, because a couple of the
one of the girls just has she snaps.
We'll
hard.
get there. We shouldn't jump ahead that way. Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, I don't know. I get why she kind of didn't want to say anything. She didn't want to come off like. I think she didn't want them. Like, she only cares about him. Like, I kind of get why she kept it a secret, but I also thought, like, I don't think it would have done that. I don't think they would have prevented her from going necessarily if they had known ahead of time. Maybe, like, one of them would have. But anyway, so she doesn't tell them. They all go in. And then that's when we are in our next chapter, and it's the Shimmer. But no, they're not right, John. They don't. It doesn't just cut to us being in the Shimmer. It cuts to Lena,
like, waking up in her tent.
No.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's a flashback. Yeah.
Lena's having sex. Who? With Daniel. Oh.
Yeah, she was having an affair with her colleague who was also married, and she doesn't know it, but Kane is downstairs and is aware that they're having an affair.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
I know he was down. I know so later, so we just get this quick cut of them having sex, and she kept saying before that she wanted to go in because she owes him. And then and I'm like, oh, because that was the thing. I'm like, is she cheating on him, or was it she thought he's dead, and is that really cheating if you think you're single? But then the next time, we can finish this, the next time we cut back to them, she's cheating on her husband.
Yeah, Kane is downstairs and is like hearing like this whole thing, and like later on we find out is like this happens before he was deployed to go into the Shimmer, unbeknownst to Natalie Portman's character. But I mean, later on, she does eventually like call off like the affair with Daniel, and they
No, he's
Yeah,
downstairs. I don't remember that. I remember him, Daniel saying like, "Your husband's gone all the time. We connect on like an intellectual level." And she's like, "What about your wife?" And he's like, "I love my wife." It's like, okay, well then why are you cheating on her?
yeah, it's like well that answers that question, bud.
And then she
Yeah, later on we do see like Kane is just downstairs in the kitchen, just sitting at a table, and it's like right after uh Lena and Daniel like have sex, and I think this is like the second time it jumps to like the flashback of like that affair, and like right before we get to the flashback of him being deployed.
Oh, okay. No, I thought so this we're jumping ahead a little bit. We'll go back. When they
oh
first
yeah, yeah,
when they're in the shimmer and they arrive at this is like Lena's house, but obviously nobody knows this. And it shows like yeah, and there's like it cuts to like Oscar Isaac just sitting and I thought it was just oh this is where they had that conversation. This is the last time she was there. I thought that's what it was. I didn't realize I didn't think it was during the affair and he's downstairs.
yeah.
I
But
thought that was a whole
when
separate thing.
Yeah, no, like, but yeah, when they enter the shimmer, they find out it's like, oh, like how long have we been here? Like they literally like wake up from a campsite and they're talking. It's like I don't remember setting up my tent or like setting up this camp out. It's already like midday. We came in like early, like late evening.
And
like
based on
there's no
food,
y-
they've been
yeah,
there like a few. I think they said 6 days.
Yeah, they've been there for multiple days, and it's like that and they have zero memory of anything that's happened since they first entered the shimmer to just like now. So it's like how like this is, and they're already kind of starting to lose it, just based off of that. They're really unnerved and unsettled by the fact that we've been in here for almost a week and we don't remember anything. Like what did we do? What have we seen? Like what happened? And they never really touch back on that, which I think is kind of cool because they're focusing more on like the present rather than the past of what happened, what did we do. Let's focus on trying not to die and survive because they do encounter. Later on, they encounter an alligator who tries to eat them, and it's not a normal alligator.
So they arrive to
it's
this little
yeah,
like it's like a little river, lake, whatever, and there's like a little house. They're checking it out, and they and
Valkyrie gets swooped.
I look at we'll just call her Valkyrie. Yeah, Valkyrie goes in and says it's clear, no one's and so Lena though is noticing though that she's like all the plants they all are coming from one vine. They're all different plants, but they're all coming from one vine, which means they have to be the same plant.
But they all are varying in different like species and like cross mutation, and it just they're all coming from the same plant, but they're all like single mutated multiple mutated stems coming from the singular vine. It's just like what the hell's going on? Like this isn't a thing that should happen. It should be one clear mutation across an entire organism, not multiple micro mutations on a singular organism. And that's a recurring theme throughout this movie of micro mutations, I guess you would call it.
So yeah, and then uh Valkyrie comes out of the house and there's she's like, oh, no one's been here for weird, and then she's just grabbed and thrown back inside. She's being pulled underwater. Something's grabbing her backpack. They get her out. Turns out it's this giant,
Albino crocodile, yeah.
and they kill it.
um
Lena just
yeah,
destroys it, like, and she then decides uh, Gina Rodriguez is like opening it up, or Josie is her name. She's opening it up, and
yeah,
Lena's looking through, and she's like, basically it's like she's like you can't cross species like like so it doesn't really none of it it's just anomaly and so it's
yeah,
definitely clear it's like a mutated version of a crocodile or alligator.
yeah.
Yeah, because they open its mouth and it has like a separate like set of teeth like down its throat, like it's like constant like circular like garbage disposal type set of teeth like going into its mouth, and like alligators and crocodiles, like they don't have that. They just have like the main like set of teeth like in their maw. That's pretty much it. It's just all bite force. This thing looks like it was like built to like bite you down and like swallow you in and just munch you as you came in. And it's just like that's not possible. Like alligators don't have this, and it also has like similar mutations inside of its mouth, similar to the plants. Like it like mixed with the plants, and it's like, wait, these things have like the same like base DNA. Like that's not possible. Like these are two very separate species. Like that's a plant and this is an animal. That's not possible. They should not be able to coexist like this.
So they keep they keep going, and I'm trying to think of what happens right after this.
They come across the previous outpost that they had to abandon because the shipper kept expanding, and this is where they discover a videotape that Kane and his team left. And this is some like the more disturbing scene. This is one of the more disturbing scenes in this movie, and I actually read up a little bit on uh this scene. This scene, I found the scene on YouTube. It's literally just like the videotape scene or something like that. And in the comments, people were saying it's like, I remember watching this in theaters, and about 5 feet people in the theater left when this scene came on. It was apparently a lot of people found this scene really disturbing, and I can't exactly blame them.
I can't blame
Because
them. I was like,
yeah,
but I wasn't like, I wouldn't have left.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty it's a pretty visceral scene, but I mean it's not something that's so out there that like, oh, this movie deserves like an X rating, or like it needs to, like we can't like we shouldn't see this movie. It's too much. Um, but yeah, yeah, why don't you tell them what they show the audience?
So really quick, they arrive, they see all of these names, including Kane's, and they realize, oh, like they're this was the last group's place. Like they're crossing off based on who's watching, and they decide to kind of follow the same plan. And then they come across this little like they come across like a chip and like a
Yeah, like an SD card, and they just put it into their camera.
and it's Kane. He one of his people he's with, he's like freaking out. Kane cuts open his stomach, and it's like instead of
his
intestines, it's like some kind of like it's like a snake or something. It's moving, and
yeah,
it's pretty gross. And
And you see him put and you see and, yeah and you see him put his hand in it, and like the snake intestine thing is like moving around in his hand, and they immediately shut off the video, and one of the girls saying like, oh, that's a trick of the light. It's like, what? You're a scientist, and you are automatically discrediting video evidence of what you all saw and all unanimously agree, aside from you, that his insides were moving.
you are a poor scientist, madam.
this is Gina Rodriguez's character, who was, I guess, a paramedic. And she's saying, I've
Yeah,
seen really messed up stuff. It's just a trick of the light. And I don't know, she just kept saying that. And I'm like, I'm guessing she was more saying that to convince herself. But
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. And
It's like you're not fooling anyone.
they then,
Yeah, no,
She's like very much like the hot tempered like
character of the group that is
I
like
felt like there were times where it was like they were trying a little too hard to make her tough. I'm like, we know, we see, I got it. Like, I don't know. It was just not like too. It just there were a couple. There was like one scene where I'm like, we get it. Like, just calm down. It just came
yeah,
off a little like relax.
it felt like, yeah, it seemed like they were trying to stereotype some like the characters in the group, like, oh, we got like uh like I was getting a lot of like aliens vibes from this, like, oh, we got like the badass marine over here, and we got like the guy who's like the tech geek, and we got the guy who's like a total coward, and just it felt like they were kind of like encompassing like that kind of group dynamic of like badasses trying to survive, and like their like faults and personalities. And I felt like they were trying to do like replicate the same thing with this, and this was just like the hot tempered one, where it's like, if it's not done her way, or if she's not the one leading the charge, that if you like if she gets pushed too far, she's going to snap, and she's going to take you all with her.
And she almost does.
yeah,
Oh yeah, she almost does.
So she and Valkyrie, they got this really adorable little like friendship. Like she's
yeah,
just very protective of her. So Josie, so which is Tessa Thompson's character, she we don't really it doesn't really explain why, but she there's a scene where Cass, they all kind of are she's talking about, so Cass and Lena, I think this is before this scene, they definitely are the ones that they kind of bond in with among these women, and she's saying like everybody's here for, you can kind of tell that they're here because they don't have a reason to go back.
Like a lot of them are like, as like, oh, like she's like alcohol, like she's an alcohol, like a recovering alcoholic, or like she's a recovering like drug addict. Like she cuts herself, like she has cancer and dying. It's like my whole family's dead. It's like they all have like very tragic like backstories and like reasons of like, if I die, like it's not gonna be the end of the world for me. It's like they're all like going in knowing that like, if like they don't come back, like they have really nothing to go back to other than some sad existence that they call life, according to them.
um After they watch the tape, they find, I guess it's like I mean, wherever, we don't really know what kind of building it is, but there's like a pool area. There's no water in it,
Yeah.
and I took it as,
It was a pool, but it has since been drained.
yeah, the guy. So they find, I thought it was the guy that they just saw on the video with the thing inside him. There's a body
Yes.
up against like a wall. His skull is all the way like several feet up above his body, and it looked kind of just like whatever was inside him just kind of came out. It's pretty gross.
Yeah, basically, yeah. This is the character who in the videotape we see get cut open by Oscar Isaacs and have like the snake intestines, and his lower body is at the bottom end of the deep end of this pool, and his upper body has kind of sprouted into like this huge fungal plant that is like plastered itself on the wall and rooted his like upper half and his skull all the way to the top of this pool, like almost at the edge of the pool. um and it is a really horrifying scene, but also visually very fascinating to look at. It's like, I don't know what I'm looking at, and that's like a recurring theme in this movie of, this is really cool to look at even though this is a truly nightmarish visual. And this movie's just chock full of it, and I absolutely love movies that have scenes like this of just constant visual uh I'm trying to find the right word, but it's like, basically it's like not really like horror porn, because this movie is like, it's scary, and like that's a scary image, and I'm really kind of like, I'm down to just like watch more of this, but it's just so visually recognizable for this movie that it's just like, as soon as you see that, it's like, oh, Annihilation. I really like that immediate recognizability
Really
for this
quick.
movie.
So when you said horror porn, I was thinking like a horror porn, like a porno that's like a
Okay,
porn
yeah,
style
not
porn.
what I meant.
You meant like food porn kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like something that's like really cool within that genre is basically all I meant by that. Not like, oh, a horror porno movie. It's like, get your mind out of the gutter, Sam. Come on.
I don't know what you watch.
I don't watch that.
I like horror, but I don't like it that much.
um,
Like what like you've never heard the term torture porn for like the Saw movies?
no, but now I
I'll
have
take your
heard.
silence as a no.
I said no. um.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. Anyway, so it's night and they're taking the first. Lena can't sleep, and she basically is. I know later is when she checks her blood, and basically they see they all come to realize what they all, it's the shimmer's affecting them essentially.
Yeah, she later on she eventually like checks like her blood and realizes like, hey, my blood's changing. Um and I think she eventually does like check everyone else's, but later on we do see I think it's Josie in her cuts, because she cuts her wrist. There's like a couple like weird like sprouts of like plant coming out of her arm, like very very small and not so noticeable. But later on, that does become like a thing where this is like way later on in the movie, but they come across like this town where there's like a bunch of like flowery like rose bushes
They're people.
formed in the way that are like completely huge. Yeah, they look like people.
And later on, she like literally like walks around the corner after and she disappears, and it's later assumed that she became one of those plants that looked exactly like a person because she immediately disappears, and there's no way she could have uh, uh, wandered off that quickly, because they all eventually like either disappear or die or mutate to the point of insanity.
So
And
they at
yeah,
this place, I believe it's this place. Um, Lena goes out to Dr. Ventress is the first watch, and Lena doesn't really want to sleep anymore, and they're kind of
yeah,
talking, and then they hear something. Cass comes out, and they see like something just broke through the fence. Something's on its way, and Cass gets taken, and it's like some kind of, we know,
yeah,
we kind of gather some type of bear. That's all we kind of know. And
yeah,
they then the next morning they're all like, they kind of are, what do we do now? And Ventress is like, so the goal is to reach the lighthouse where this whole thing first started. And she's like, well, we got to keep going. We haven't reached the lighthouse. We haven't found out what's going on yet. And uh, Gina Rodriguez and Tessa Thompson want to go back, and Lena's like,
yeah,
Like it's like we gotta find Shepard, we gotta find Cass, and Lena is like, I'll find her, and she manages to track where this like bear's like lair is, and finds like her dog tags and a bunch of blood.
it's like she's
she
dead.
sees her body. It kind of looks like
Yeah,
when they find Barb in the Upside Down.
Yeah, she is completely mangled.
It's
like she is
gross and
dead.
horrifying. But so or before this, Lena's like, "You're right. We should go back." But it took us 6 days to get here. The lighthouse is only 2 days away, and they already pretty much inferred like once we reach the lighthouse, that's on the coast. We just kind of follow the coast back. So, and they're like, so we got to go in to get out. And she's like, yeah. So they
Yeah,
keep going. Yeah. Then
yeah.
she decides to go find Cass. Like they need to know what happened. And they're like, to find her? And she's like, yep. And they're like, and she's like, yep, she's dead. Like, I think they all knew she was dead, but like, they still wanted to
Yeah,
know.
yeah. It's like
know.
they don't. Yeah, they don't necessarily believe her.
Or like they doubt, and later on you hear Cass shouting for help, like she's screaming for help. It's like, wait,
Oh
She's
my
dead.
god. Okay, all right,
What's going on?
before this, so
Yeah, that scene
oh
is
god,
truly terrifying, and I absolutely love it.
probably yeah, it was messed up, but it was definitely it was a solid scene. So we they keep going. This is when they arrive at it's Lena's house, and we're seeing all these people. It's like plants that are grown in the shape of people, and this is when so Josie Tess Thompson, she says like she realizes like, so the shimmer is like, I don't remember what exactly she said. I don't know science, but it was basically like it's kind of taking like it's like fracturing everything in a sense. And she's like, if you tested our skin and the leaves on these plants, they're all it's people. Like we can you're gonna, and so it's kind of, and they realize it's messing with their DNA. This is when
yeah.
Lena at that night like checks her blood and sees that it's changing. But so they're in her house, and so I thought, oh, this is how they're gonna find out that Oscar Isaac is her husband, because they're gonna see like pictures on the wall or something, because it's her house.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, and it's not. Then she wakes up. Gina Rodriguez is holding a gun at her, and is this she's holding up the locket, or she's holding up the locket later, and she's like, "You lying bitch," and then knocks her out, and then all three of the women are tied up to chairs, like they're gagged, and she's basically just kind of this is when she snaps.
Oh yeah, she snaps and is like, I like how do we know she didn't kill Shepard? Like we never saw a body, we never confirmed it, and later on we and during this we hear Cass who we know for a fact to be dead. We hear her outside screaming for help. It's like, help me. And it sounds really far. It's like, what the hell's going on? She's dead. Like, this place is like really messing with us. Or it's like, I wasn't sure. It's like, are they all hearing this? Or is that just what she's hearing, and she's just crazy and she runs out and hears it, and we hear her fire a gun and her like being attacked by a bear, and this bear comes in and it has no face.
It's just like it
the design
yeah,
for the
it
bear is
its
horrifying.
Skull is just there. Its face is just its skull, and it is terrifying to look at. And it opens its mouth in front of them, and you hear Cass Shepard's voice coming out yelling, "Help me!" And it's like, that is that is terrifying.
And they're all just trying to be really quiet and stay still. And then, I mean, at this point, I think I kind of thought that Gina Rodriguez was dead. No, she's still alive. She gets up, she shoots at it, and it comes and attacks her. And then you see like her intestines, and it's pretty
Yeah,
death wise.
it kills her.
It's pretty graphic. And then
Yeah.
Lena and Ventress are trying to break free from their chairs. The bear eventually goes after Lena. And okay, so prior to this, when she's in interrogation or being interviewed at the like in the flashback,
Yeah.
she has the tattoo on her arm that Gina Rodriguez's character had, and I'm like, okay. And I think I then like, and then later when she's holding up, I don't know if I thought this at the time. I thought that that was her arm, that was Gina Rodriguez's arm that was just become attached to Natalie Portman's body, because when she gets attacked by the bear, I swear her arm was up, and I thought I saw him like go after it, and I'm like, oh, that's how she gets the tattoo, because like she needs an arm or something, and they like whatever.
Oh, I never noticed that. You could be right, but I genuinely did not notice that.
But no, her and then the next shot, her arms just like what? I'm like, okay, so maybe that's not the case, but we never get an explanation on why she has that tattoo, and so I don't know if my theory is correct. I feel like we would have seen that. Like that seems too big of a.
I'm gonna need to rewatch the movie, honestly, to confirm or deny that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't have the fact to disprove or agree with this.
Which is fine. Like I don't care if I'm wrong. I was just like, why there was no explanation on the tattoo.
Yeah, I genuinely didn't notice that. There was a lot there was a lot of major things focused that I was focusing on in that scene, and that was not one of them.
So after this, Josie kills the bear, and then Ventress leaves and is like, I'm gonna just going to the lighthouse.
Yeah, she just books it. She leaves Natalie Portman and Valkyrie there, and I'm just calling her Valkyrie, and eventually, yeah. And then she like goes and like walks around the corner and like disappears, and like we assume turned into like one of the uh flower tree bushes that look like the people.
Yeah, so it's the next morning, and they're talking, and she basically says like, either way, we're gonna die. You know, we want to fight. Like I don't think I want to do either option. And yeah, and that was the thing is, I wasn't sure if the leaves were already growing out of her or if she put them there. For a second, I thought they were just on her arm, and then I realized, oh no, like it's growing. And so I wasn't sure if it was like she put it there and said it, or saw it and just accepted it. I feel like it's the latter.
Yeah.
But
I think yeah, because at this point we learned that she's like she cut her wrist, and she's like prone to like potentially like have like suicidal thoughts. Is like she's essentially like giving up and accepting that like this thing is essentially mixing and fusing all the DNA of any and all living things that this thing touches, to the point where they even say that the bear that ate Cass, there's like, do you think the thing just mimicked her voice that it after it killed her, or that it just absorbed so much for her DNA that was actually her saying "help me"? It's like, oh, that is a really disturbing thought, that the bear may have actually still had some of like Shepard's DNA in it after eating her, that it just kind of became that she kind of became part of the bear. And they kind of like tease around with that idea a lot, and like at this point, Valkyrie is just like, we're all just more or less just merging with everything in here. I'm just deciding to do it of my own choice. And she walks around the corner and just disappears.
And Selena just kind of has like, she gives herself like, she cries, she's breaking, she's alone now. She decides to keep going. She reaches the lighthouse, which I thought was like, I don't know. I thought they was, I mean, maybe it was the last place. They said it was 2 days away. So maybe it was only 1 day away. But I'm like, wait, I thought this was going to be a longer trip. But anyway, she gets there.
Yeah.
And there's like these.
It probably was a long. It probably was a long trip. They just didn't. Like nothing happened along the way. That there was no point in showing us that.
I mean, fair enough. Yeah. So she then arrives at the lighthouse, and everything is. So there's still the ocean, but there's these like crystals that are kind of growing from like trees of like crystals or something, and
it was trippy.
Are like in front of the lighthouse.
Yeah, all the skeletons and bones. Like, where are all, like, not this many people came through this far in. It's like, where do these come from?
So she goes inside, and there's a person, just kind of like the guy that we saw before with the thing in him, and then we see like his body was up against like the pool wall. We see somebody, just their skeletons kind of against it's like it was exploded. It's kind of partly the wall now. There's a videotape, and Lena watches it, and there's Kane, and in a much heavier. So first of all, he does this whole speech saying like, "I thought it was he had a Southern accent, and he never had one anytime he was speaking the rest of the movie before." Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Like, it was like a heavy one too. It was like, "I thought it was a man, but here I'm not sure." I mean, not heavy, but I was like, I don't remember this.
He has a noticeable Southern twang to it. Yeah, I agree with you.
It was not in any of the other scenes. I get why. I won't spoil it yet. I get why when we first meet him, it wasn't there. I don't get why. Actually, even then, I don't get why it wasn't there. It was never there before.
I kind of understand why it's not there, but we'll get to that in a bit.
He does this whole thing. He's holding a grenade, and he says, he's like, "Go find Lena," and then you hear, "I will," and then he pulls it, and then who steps in front of the camera, Kevin?
Kane. Yeah. So the Kane that we meet in the beginning of the movie isn't Kane. It's some genetic doppelganger that knows Kane inside and out, because it is Kane, and the real Kane committed suicide with a phosphorus grenade, which is like a really like potent incendiary grenade that just basically turned him into a charred corpse in front of this like tripod that Lena is now watching. She's watching a videotape of her husband committing suicide,
and then another version of her husband.
And
it's like wait, so the Kane that I just saw like weeks before I came into the Shimmer wasn't Kane, and is just some weird genetic body double. It's like, what the hell happened here? And this is the part of the movie that gets really trippy.
Oh,
and I feel like
damn.
this scene, this scene, I feel like I need to just rewatch this whole movie just to watch this scene over and over again, because a lot happens in the scene, and I feel like I didn't get all of it. It's really complex.
There's this hole in the ground. She then goes inside. It's this like little like narrow cave. She gets out. There's think of like Pennywise's lair, except it's not
much smaller.
And there's Ventress. Her face is all kind of weird, and then she turns to Lena, and it returns to normal, and she's like, and she's like, and she basically says like, what they want is like total annihilation. It's like, that's the title. And
roll credit.
We then see like she then gets like consumed kind of by what's inside her, and it's this like force, this light. It then it's like kind of showing Lena a little bit of like the nature of it, and part of her, we see a tiny bit of her blood, which I don't remember if ever. There was no blood on her, and then there was a drop of blood on her that gets sucked in, and it creates this humanoid, which is also which this humanoid is played by Sonia Mizuno, who's the student in the very beginning. Side note, but
yeah,
it's in the colors. It's like purple and blue and green. It's the same like, and she runs away. Obviously, Lena runs away. It's there again in the lighthouse, and it's mirroring her. So everything she does, it's doing. She tries to escape, and then it kind of just like, I thought it was suffocating her. And actually, for a second, so she's on the door, the humanoid's on top of her on the door, and I thought she was just kind of pretending to kind of like get like become weak and stuff, just so to lessen the like weight, and then the humanoid would back off and she would escape. But no, she basically comes unconscious, wakes up, they fight, and then she gets knocked out again, and then the third time, and every time like, and we're seeing the humanoid just like, Lena goes down, and then the humanoid like either does it at the same time or watches for a second and then copies.
Yeah, like this thing, it's like a toddler like mimicking its parent. It's like trying to learn through observation on Lena by trying to become Lena, is what I assumed this thing was like, trying to become Lena, just like the other doppelganger became Kane, and this is just the process of it doing that. But yeah, no, that doesn't go quite according to plan for this thing, or does it?
Yeah, and it then it starts to transform and turn into Lena, and the face, like when it was developing, was horrifying. Like, it has eyes and no mouth and nose, and then like it was like, like I was like, oh, okay.
It's a very slow transformation, but Lena pretty much is like had enough of it and finds a spare phosphorus grenade and just lets it rip.
She's leading it, kind of, he's following her. She picks up the grenade, hands it to the humanoid, pulls it, and then runs. And then the humanoid, like, she catches on fire. Everything catches on fire. She then goes back into the hole and to the source. And then Lena's just outside. Everything's just on fire. And then we're, back in she's being interrogated.
Yeah, and every question that Wong is asking her is like, "What do you remember?" She's pretty much just asking, like, saying, like, "I don't know. Everyone's dead. I don't remember what happened," and pretty much just explaining, like, it's like, this thing had no form. I don't know what this thing wanted.
She's like, this thing think it wanted anything. It was just
it's like it wanted us, but I don't know for what purpose.
It wasn't trying to like destroy everything or dominate everything. It was just kind of existing.
Yeah,
that was the general. She then's like, "Oh, where's my husband?" And he's, I guess, basically when everything catches on fire, the shimmer kind of disappears and goes down. And so they're saying, "Oh yeah, as far as we know, it looks like whatever it was, everything's dead." And then she goes to see Kane, and she's like, "You're not Kane," and he's like, "No," and he's like, "Are you Lena?" And I'm like, "Oh, they're trying to like play it off that like Inception, like we don't know if." It is.
But her eyes like reflect the same way Kane's do, so it's like, is this not Lena? Did she not die? Did she die? And this is the doppelganger? So it's like, they do leave it on like a weird kind of, did this happen kind of thing of like, did she make it out? Which I thought was really cool.
Although I felt like we saw it couldn't have been her. But I will say it would have made sense, because then I'm like, wouldn't she have wanted to be next to her husband? And I'm like, no, she would have gone back into down the hole where she can destroy everything. So the actions of the humanoid made sense to be Lena, but I don't see, it didn't make sense based on what we saw for for Natalie Portman in the end to not be the real Lena. You know what I mean? There wasn't enough of like a time lapse that we saw to convince me that it wasn't. So I'm thinking maybe it is the humanoid and we are outsmarted, or just whatever whatever was in the shimmer is still kind of with her and in her. It's one of the two.
I think she just like is heavily mutated at this point from being exposed to being in the shimmer for so long that she has essentially merged with the humanoid on some kind of a cellular level and had a bunch of micromutations added to her and has since kind of changed into a new being that isn't entirely human, just like Kane isn't human now. Um, and that's kind of what I wanted to get into with Kane's choice of name. I feel like that is. I felt like they purposely named him Kane because for those of you who don't know, in the Bible, Cain is the name of Adam's son who committed the first murder. He killed his son. He killed his brother Abel, Cain and Abel, and Cain is the first murderer in the Bible who committed like the ultimate sin. And I feel like that was kind of like not really an homage, but just kind of like they named him that purposely because like he is like the original sinner, and like this is like he's like the first of his kind, and now Cain is like the first of his kind in this movie. He's the first humanoid that has since transformed into what he is now.
It's the opposite. I think it's the opposite, right? I thought. Wait. Oh no,
Cain killed Abel.
You're right. Sorry, I was mixing it up.
Yeah.
No, I was okay. Yeah. I was wrong. No, it's because I okay. Yeah, sorry. I was like, wait a minute. I thought it was the opposite. Yes. Okay, that's a really good. Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if that's intentional for this movie. That's what I kind of read into this when I realized, like, oh, his name's Cain, like Cain and Abel. So it's like, oh, is that intentional? Yeah, I may be reading too much into it, but like that would be a really cool thing if that was the case, if they named him that.
I totally believe it because I literally was thinking, what kind of a name is Kane? This whole movie, but it's spelled Kane. It's not spelled like the name in the Bible. So I was just like, what a weird name. Like, okay, like so. Yeah. I'm like or a weird first name. I know that's more of a last name, but I mean, but interesting.
I could be completely wrong and just reading a lot into it, but I feel like that is a significant reason why his name is Kane in the movie.
That's interesting. I totally believe it. I totally buy it. Yeah, this movie's, like we said, it's definitely different. I think you can compare it to other things in terms of like character dynamic or maybe the concept, but even the way it's told is very unusual, or I haven't seen seen a lot of films like this. I think it's definitely worth a watch.
This movie, it does focus a lot on the unknown. This movie does leave you with a lot more questions than it does answers, which can be very infuriating for a lot of people. I know this didn't like hit home really hard with my dad, and he watches these kinds of movies all the time. Like he literally watches these movies to fall asleep, and this is definitely like one of the movies that's like he wasn't really a fan of because it left him
your dad
wanting to know what happened,
action type or mystery type stuff to fall asleep. You know what I listen to fall asleep? I listen to like a sitcom or something, like or a workplace.
I listen to Mystery Science Theater.
I listen to something light. I'm not going to listen to something that's unsettling, but that's just me.
No.
It's just kind of cool watching this movie because it does focus a lot on the unknown, and I just think it's really cool that this movie doesn't give you all the answers you're looking for. It just gives you enough to keep you informed on what's going on in the moment, but it does leave you wanting. It's like, what happened? Did this actually happen?
It's definitely like this. It's not like, we think it's going to be a lot more straightforward than it is, but as well as it's. So there's really like when at the end when they realize, because I think based on the movie, based on the trailer, I kind of thought there was like a specific monster or there was something more more specific than a freshly made humanoid that's in charge and is controlling all this. But then once we kind of learn, no, it's just existing. It's not really trying to do damage or anything. It definitely it's not it's different. I definitely think it's worth a watch. I totally see it not. I can totally believe it though. For some people, not being a movie to watch over and over and over. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's definitely not. I think
it's not for everyone.
I can definitely see it not being for everyone. I thought even the music, which plays in the trailer, the music when Natalie Portman meets the humanoid is very like it's that's not even like anything I've heard of. Like everything about this movie is just very unusual. Um, some things that I thought are worth noting though. So apparently, so one thing, so Oscar Isaac actually was filming this movie at the same time he was filming Last Jedi, and he's only in a few scenes in this movie.
Yeah, he's really only in like the beginning and the end and like a couple flashback scenes sprinkled throughout the movie. So in total, he's only in the movie for like maybe 30 minutes.
Maybe even less than that.
Yeah, I'm being generous, but yeah, he's not in the movie that much, even though he is kind of a pivotal point in the movie.
But he was basically on the same. I guess it was on this. It said it was on IMDb. It says they were on adjacent studio lots, and he had the same trailer, and that he would sometimes shoot scenes for both movies in one day. I'm like,
jeez.
I know that like one movie he's in more and one movie he's in less, but that's gonna be exhausting. Like
that, yeah. I'm just picturing him like reading lines for Last Jedi in this movie and just how weird that would feel. But it's like, would that be so out of character for his doppelganger in this movie? It was like
his
he's just rehearsing. He's just saying lines that he.
Poe. You're not Kane.
It's
no,
like
I'm Poe.
It's like the jacket looks good on you. It's like, what?
I remember like people bringing up to me, or a couple of our friends brought up to me like the part where Oscar Isaac or when Poe and Finn reunite, and he's like, "Is that my jacket?" And he's like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Looks good on you." And they said he licked his lips, and I'm like, "What?" And or maybe I don't know. I rewatched it and I didn't see that at all, and I know exactly what scene they were talking about, but I'm like,
yeah,
it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't that weird. Like, sure, look.
People saw what they wanted to see.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't that's what they saw. It was just the like, I don't know. I didn't read as much into it at the time.
Well, I remember like a lot. I do remember like when those movies were like still like in the works and like coming out. Like everyone was like, a lot of people were like theorizing. It's like, oh yeah, like Poe Dameron is like bisexual or like gay, and like him and Finn are gonna get together because like their bromance is so strong. It's like, okay, I don't see that, but okay, because this is owned by Disney. Like they're not gonna do that. And then later on in Rise of Skywalker, there's like, oh, there's a lesbian couple in this.
It's so quick.
Didn't see that coming.
I forgot all about it, and then when I saw that you told me that people were annoyed with it, I'm like, it was so quick. It's not a big deal. And also,
it literally happened, and then that was it.
Also, get over it. It's coming. Like Disney's gonna do it eventually. Like you can't convince me that they're not. But anyway, so I feel like mentally that would be exhausting to do because you're just. I mean, I don't know. It's not like he's kind of just Kane's just a regular person, as far as we know, and Poe's kind of like a more frustrating Han Solo. I just feel like mentally it would be exhausting to get in the headspace.
I feel like that's a very apt description of Poe Dameron. He's just a more exhausting Han Solo.
Because he's trying so hard to be the hero. Him and
he's trying so hard to be the cool guy.
And we're gonna just have this discussion eventually. So
we are,
or we're gonna have it several times. Probably that one. I don't know.
Yeah, but the day is not the day.
So yeah, this is also this is a series, and I guess apparently there was some got a lot of criticism because Natalie Portman and Jennifer Jason Leigh's characters, I guess they're Asian and half Native American. I don't know if that's both of them or whatever, but they're not white basically, and they got some crap for casting them. And the director, so I thought it said that apparently he said that none of their ethnicities are at all explained or mentioned in the first book. And I kind of, when I first heard that, I'm like, I mean, okay, but why would you not have checked? Because you know how people get, and that we want to see diversity and all that. But then he said, but then apparently, it doesn't come out till the second book, and the second book wasn't even out yet. So there's no way he could have known.
Oh, okay.
So like, you know, yeah, what? I'll give it that
I'm doing my best with the information I had.
And I got it. I mean, could they have casted a? Could they have? I mean, like ethnicity doesn't really matter at all in this movie. You have three white women, two. Gina Rodriguez is Hispanic. Tessa Thompson, I think, is black, or I'm not entirely sure. I'm not really sure, but she's not white.
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, like the movie is like fairly diverse. Like I wasn't disappointed. It's like the movie's not like completely like a whitewash like cast. It's like there's a fair amount of diversity in the movie, and it's like that didn't bother me.
Oh, she is Hispanic. Okay, I thought she was Hispanic, but I thought no, she's not. I don't know why I thought she wasn't, but anyway, she is. She's Hispanic. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I didn't have a, but then again, I didn't have an issue with it. But then again, I'm white, so I didn't really no. Like in all seriousness, I was aware that there was a lack of diversity, but it only recently actually really clicked, because I realized the whole bottom line is that like with the whole thing with the Oscars and like how it's everyone's white, and I realized it finally clicked for me, like, oh, the issue is not just that they're not getting nominated, it's that they're not getting cast. So if they can't get casted, then they're not, of course, they're not going to get nominated. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a problem. That's not okay. But you know, I mean, could Natalie Portman been played by someone who wasn't white? Yeah. But I mean, it didn't really, I don't know. I thought she was great. But anyway, I thought I can get why that would get some criticism. But again, he didn't know. There's no way he could have known until after the book came out, and it wasn't out.
Yeah.
But also, I forgot what I told you.
Yeah, I genuinely do enjoy this movie. I feel like you guys should give this movie a chance. It's not for everyone, but if you're into like cosmic horror and like fear of the unknown and sci-fi, fantasy, or like horror, really any of that, like this movie does fit in that genre, and I'm sure you guys will give it a watch and hopefully enjoy it. I know I did this. I went into this movie like a little apprehensive because I did hear really not a whole lot. This movie kind of fell under the radar for a lot of people, and yeah, because like not that many people saw it. This movie had an opening box office weekend of $11 million, which is really low for a movie like this with a budget of 40 million. It only made
when it came out, my I remember bugging my sister, telling her like, you gotta go see Black Panther, and I guess she did see Annihilation, but I kept bugging her to go see Black Panther. I remember that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, I remember when I saw the trailer, I was down. I wanted to see it. I will say it is, like I said, it might not be for everybody. I definitely think, it's worth it, watch it. And if you're not into it, then don't watch it again, which I guess is the case for any movie. But like, it is, to me, I feel like if anything, it's not even, it is gory. It does get kind of, I don't really say it gets scary. I feel like if anything, it's the gore. And I think the only time I really gasped was when the bear was screaming, opened its mouth and we hear Cass screaming. I was like, oh my gosh, like, damn.
Yeah.
But it's also very,
the bear scene and the videotape scene, I feel like are like the most like extreme in terms of like gore and horror in this movie. So if you can handle that, you'll be fine for the rest of the.
Oh, it's not. I get why. I don't know. I'm surprised that people got up and left. Like, It's not.
Yeah, when I read that,
it was gross, but I wasn't like.
funny.
I was like, oh, what? But I don't know. It never occurred to me to. I didn't pause and take a break necessarily, so I don't know. But it's also. But I feel like the bear scene and the very end scene with the humanoid was probably the most like what
Visually interesting. Yeah.
but also what is happening. Like it's just
Yeah.
you can't. There's no way you can expect what's coming and what's gonna happen. It's definitely it's really interesting. I think it's pretty interesting, especially since it is a heavily female cast, which is pretty cool. And and they're all super badass women. And Natalie Portman's pretty badass in most things she does. But then again, I haven't seen every single Natalie Portman movie, so I don't know. But,
yeah, no, it is a very interesting movie to say the least. If you're interested, give it a watch, and just remember Kevin and Sam sent you.
So
yeah.
News.
I guess that'll be it for this week. You got anything else to add, Sam?
Oh, actually, so just very quick.
Yep.
Apparently, so remember on Back to Stranger Things, Murray, the weird journalist conspiracy theory guy.
Yeah.
So I guess apparently he's going to be made a series regular season 4.
Oh, sweet.
It's like yes.
Yeah, that's
When this show ends, I want him to get a spinoff.
I'd be down for that.
He's hilarious.
He is an underrated character. I feel like in that show, he was kind of a joke character. There's like, all right, he's kind of being taken a little bit more seriously.
Was he in the first season? It's been a while since I've watched the first season.
Like briefly, I think he's just kind of like a joke character.
Because I don't think when we meet him in the second one, it was for the first time. It was like, oh, that guy. I feel like he's that actor that I see in a ton of things. And
yeah,
I'm always like,
it's been a while since I've seen the first 2 seasons, but I think he does make an appearance in the first season, just like really briefly.
But they also I never did it, but did you ever do like if you dial this number and you're gonna hear a voicemail from Murray saying, "Hey Joyce, it's Murray. I found something out about Hopper or something." Blah blah blah. I didn't call, so I didn't hear it. But one of my friends like, "Oh, did you call?" I'm like, "No, I read what the voicemail was, so I'm like, I don't really need to call. I know what he says, but I feel like he was such a he's such a delight. Like, so I'm so glad that he's gonna be more involved with what's going on.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, I think we're good. Like, I think I'm good.
Yeah,
like
that sounds. Yeah.
See, when we talk about a bad movie, we're gonna go on
that
forever.
solid ending right there. I'm Kevin Tracy.
I'm Samantha Tomlinson, and keep on listening, keep on watching movies, and keep it real.
Like us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Google. Share with your friends, and leave a comment somewhere on which movie you guys want us to do next. In the meantime, bye bye. See you next week.
Bye.